The last of our review is here in the beginning of week 2, and we're going to finish out our review with a review of logs. So, what is a log, or the longer name, logarithm? Why do we need to use it with exponentials? How are they related? If you remember back to your previous algebra course, you learned about inverse functions. Well, we've just reviewed exponential functions, and we know that there has to be a way to solve exponential functions when they have the variables in the exponent. We were finding that if we can get the same bases on different sides of the equation, we can use the definition of equality to be able to solve for the exponent that's a variable. But what happens if we don't have an equation? What if we're looking to evaluate what an exponential is? We have to have another way to undo, for lack of a better term, an exponential. And that's where logs come in. They are inverses of exponentials, and vice versa. Exponentials are inverses of logs. So, where we're going to start is with the natural log, which is the log base e. So, here we have a definition of natural log. It says as long as x is positive, we can say that x is equal to e to the y if and only if y equals the natural log of x. So this symbol in the middle means that the equals goes both ways. It goes both directions. It means that we can rewrite logs to exponentials, but we can also rewrite exponentials back to logs. So, for example, if I have e to the x equals 3, that's true if and only if I can rewrite log base e of 3 equal to x. And this is what we have. Log base e of 3 is equal to x. So the little trick I just used was one that a student showed me a long time ago. They said if the log base a of x equals y, you can rewrite that as, well, think of it as a circle. A to the y equals x. So a to the y equals x. And it works the other direction too. If I have, well, I guess not the other direction. Yes, it does work the other direction, but I mean, is you can also use it for natural logs. So if I have a natural log of x equaling y, remember that the natural log is the same as log base e of x. So what that means is when I do my circle with that one, it'll be log base e. So e to the y. So this is true if and only if e to the y equals x. And what I was saying about being able to go backwards is also true. If I had p to the 3 equals q, I could rewrite that as log base p of q equals 3. Log base p of q equals 3. So we can read it going both directions. So we would say y equals the natural log of 5 if and only if e to the y equals 5. So along with our logs comes properties of logs. And I know we've all seen these before. It says if you take the log of a product, then it becomes a sum of two logs. So the log of u times v becomes a log of u plus a log of v. And everywhere I have a natural log here, we could also use regular logs, but we're going to find, particularly in this class, that we only need natural logs because we're going to be doing a lot more work with exponential growth and decay than we will with any other kind of logistic function. So in order to solve, for instance, applications with natural growth and decay in finance and finding interest, figuring out how much we have to invest to reach a certain amount after a certain amount of time, compounded continuously. Those kinds of applications require us to use natural logs because we are looking at functions that are base e. So we will end up using natural logs to help us solve for different values. So that's why we're focusing mostly on properties of natural logs. So we know, like I said, that we've got the log of u times v becomes a log of u plus a log of v. And this is because in exponentials, remember that when you have two of the same base and you multiply them, you can add their exponents. So there's still a tie in here with what's going on with the exponentials. Likewise, when we have the log of u divided by v, that becomes the log of u minus the log of v. If we have the log of u raised to the power of n, then we simply bring n to the front, make it n times the natural log of u. Then we have the three that make it easier to simplify when we have log expressions. E raised to the power of the natural log of x is simply x. And in this case, x can be anything. It's literally e to the natural log of pretty much anything. Now remember, you can't take the natural log of a negative number or zero, but if it's pretty much anything within the domain of the natural log, then that e to that natural log essentially becomes that anything. So if I had e to the natural log of 2, that would just be 2. If I had e to the natural log of x squared plus 3, that becomes x squared plus 3. So natural log of e is just 1, because if we were to rewrite that, that would be e to the 1 equals e, which makes sense. That is why the natural log of e is always 1, because e to the first power is always itself. And in a very similar way, e to what power equals 0 or equals 1, that has to be the 0 power, because anything to the 0 power is 1 except for 0 to the 0, which is indeterminate. So this is just saying natural log of 1 is 0. And here's the cool thing about that. If you do logs in any other bases, the log of any base of 1 is always 0, because it's that base raised to what power gives us 1. It's always 0. Let's put a couple of these log properties to work for us. If I have the function f of x is equal to the natural log of the entire product, x times the quantity x plus 2 times the quantity x minus 4, that is a product times a product, right? There's multiple products in there. So what we can say is, let's use the rule that says then we can make this the natural log of x plus the natural log of x plus 2 plus the natural log of x minus 4. And what we used was that rule that said the natural log of u times v is equal to the natural log of u plus the natural log of v. And we can't really reduce it from here anymore because we didn't have any rules of logs that involve x plus something. Once that plus or minus is involved inside the operation of the natural log, we can't simplify it any further. We are simply done. So this is where we will finish that one. And we're going to try another one, this time with a division. So if I have y as a natural log of x plus 1 divided by x minus 1, then we're going to use the rule that said the natural log of u over v was the natural log of u minus the natural log of v. So we're simply going to say here that y is the natural log of x plus 1 minus the natural log of x minus 1. And again, because we have a plus or a minus inside the natural log, we're all done. Logs don't work like other variables. This isn't like an x times an x plus 1, so you can't make it natural log of x plus natural log of 1. It doesn't work that way. A log is an operator, like an exponential. So we have to leave it just like this. So let's use some other properties of logs to also either unsimplify or simplify some of these other expressions. So if I have the natural log of 6 plus the natural log of x, we know from the previous example that came from the natural log of 6 times x. which we usually just write as the natural log of 6x. And we can leave it at that, which is a lot simpler to look at. What about the natural log of 3 plus the natural log of 6 minus the natural log of 9? Well, what I'm going to say is let's do it one step at a time. We know that addition came from multiplication, so this would be a natural log of 3 times 6 minus the natural log of 9, or the natural log of 18 minus the natural log of 9. From there, we know then that the subtraction part is division. So this really is the natural log of 18 divided by 9, and 18 divided by 9 is just 2. So this whole expression reduces down to just the natural log of 2. So sometimes using our properties of logs in reverse helps us simplify what looks more complicated. You can also put this one in your calculator and see what comes up, and it would be surprising that if you put in natural log of 3 plus the natural log of 6 and minus the natural log of 9 and hit enter, and then on the next line you said natural log of 2 and hit enter, you'd see that they were the same value. What your calculator cannot do is tell you that it is the natural log of 2. It's just going to give you a decimal. So what if we put those two together, those types of properties together, with the e to the natural log power property? So in this case, we've got e to the natural log of 3 plus the natural log of 8. So that's really e to the natural log of 3 times 8, or e to the natural log of 24. And if you remember, the property we talked about before was e to the natural log of anything within reason is that anything within reason. So really, we end up here with just 24. But how does this change if I switch the sign and make it subtraction? Well, as we've seen in the last couple of examples, that means it's division. So we're going to get a slightly different answer. So here we get e to the natural log of 3 minus the natural log of 8 is really e to the natural log of 3 divided by 8. And as we just saw, we use our e to the natural log property, and it just becomes 3/8. The reason why we're looking at these is when we get into our exponential growth and decay, we're going to find ways to simplify some of our expressions. And eventually we're going to be doing a calculus operation on logs called derivatives. And being able to split them apart makes your job exponentially easier. So these are properties that will help you make your life a lot simpler when we get out a little bit further in this unit. The last set of examples we're going to look at are exponential equations that can be solved using logs. So if I have e to the 3x equals 7, there's no way to rewrite the 7 as a base of e unless we used one of our properties. So there are a couple of ways we can think about this, and one is to simply rewrite. So my go-to on all of these is going to be rewrite. So rewrite them as from exponentials as logs. So if that's the case, we'd have log base e of 7 equals 3x. So log base e of 7 equals 3x. Well, we know that log base e is a natural log, so natural log of 7 is 3x. And now we just have to solve for x. And currently x is multiplied by 3. We got to do it by dividing. So the natural log of 7, all divided by 3, is equal to x. If you want to think a little more outside the box, remember that rule that said e to the natural log of really anything here, but we had x was equal to x? We could say for 7, we could say then here e to the 3x is the same as e to the natural log of 7. So it's a little tricky, but you could do that. And then what we know about equating things that have the same bases now, we know that this equal signs means that 3x has to be equal to the natural log of 7. So x is the natural log of 7 over 3. So it's kind of a silly way to think of it and to use one of those other properties. But if you would rather use the property than rewriting, you certainly can. The goal is to make sure that we use one of our tools to help us finish out the problem. And so let's try it again now with our second one. E to the 1 minus 2x equals 5. So this one we're going to rewrite again as log base e of 5 equals 1 minus 2x. So the natural log of 5 equals 1 minus 2x. So now we need to solve for x. Currently it's on the right-hand side. It's negative. Let's add it to the other side. So 2x plus the natural log of 5 equals 1. So 2x is equal to 1 minus the natural log of 5. And x then is just 1 minus the natural log of 5 all over 2. And yes, you can plug this into your calculator. And when you do, x is approximately a negative 0.305. And yes, you will eventually need to find some exact values of natural logs. Okay? And yes, you could certainly go ahead and try to do e to the natural log of 5 and solve it that way, just like we did the first one. And it would come out very similarly. You would have e to the 1 minus 2x equals e to the natural log of 5. And you'd still get 1 minus 2x equals the natural log of 5. And you'd end up in the same place. So you would just have to then solve for x again. Okay? So whichever way works for you. For the last one, though, we have to get a little more creative. Because for the last one, I don't have the e by itself. So the goal is to get the exponential alone first. So currently we have a subtracting 9. Let's add 9 to both sides. So at 2e to the x over 3 now equals a positive 9. And we're almost there, but there's still a 2 multiplying the e. So let's divide both sides by 2. So we get e to the x over 3 equals 9 over 2. And you could write this as 4.5 if you like. 4.5. You can use a decimal. I'm not going to tell you you can't. Some problems in Pearson will allow you to do decimals. Some will say you have to leave it in terms exactly of e or in exact natural logs. So just read the directions carefully to see if you are allowed to put it in as decimals or not. And if you are, it'll tell you how many places to round it to. Okay? So if we rewrite this one, we know that the natural log of, natural log of 9 halves is equal to x over 3. So we're just going to multiply both sides by 3, and we end up with 3 times the natural log of 9 halves is equal to x. Or you could say it's 3 natural log of 4.5. That's also okay. Either one of those is okay in my book. And what is this x? Funny enough, it's approximately 4.512, which I find really humorous considering we have a 3 times the log of 4.5. So, and again, if you wanted to do this with the properties of logs, when you were back here, you would say e to the x over 3 is equal to e to the natural log of 9 halves. So you could do it that way. And you'd end up in the same boat. You'd still get x over 3 equals the natural log of 9 halves. And can you make this natural log of 9 minus the natural log of 2? Absolutely. There's a whole lot of different ways you can solve this problem. We still need to multiply by 3. So this would be natural log of 9 minus the natural log of 2. You can use these properties as long as you use them in the correct way. You can use as many of them or as few of them as you like, as long as you're solving for x and you're not breaking the rules of algebra. So this is our last review question. From here, you'll need to watch the video on section 1.1 that is another review really about lines. So we'll do that, and then we'll move into how to find slopes of curves.